The seamstress at the luxury fashion show. She walked with small, almost shy steps, clutching tightly to her old, worn fabric bag, where she kept her patterns, threads, and dreams. The broken heel of her shoe revealed the rush of someone who had run too much for many and for few, almost never for herself. It was just another workday, but today felt different. She could feel it, deep down in her heart. Something pushed her to this point. Mrs. Teresa had been a seamstress since she was 14. She learned to stitch together life with her mother in the countryside, sewing clothes she would never wear, dresses that always belonged to others, her own. Story was made of scraps, of losses, of new beginnings, of sleepless nights in front of an old sewing machine that made more noise than progress. That late afternoon, she hurried into the city's most luxurious mall. It wasn't her place, and she knew it. She felt the gazes the moment she passed through the revolving door, judgmental, distant, uncomfortable. She wore a simple cotton blouse, a faded skirt she had sewn herself, and a tired gaze that had seen so much but still held a glimmer. She was there to deliver. With her own hands, the final adjustments to a piece she had helped create. A famous designer, with no time and no patience, had outsourced the finishing touches on some garments. Teresa accepted the job, like so many others, quickly, with no credit, no chance to be recognized. But today, there was a fashion show, models, cameras, showcases. She just wanted to hand over what she had done, get the little she was promised, and leave. But what she found was quite different. A security guard blocking her way, saying, "You must have gotten lost," saying, "This is a private event for guests only." They called her ma'am, but the tone was like saying unwanted. Other women passed by her in shiny clothes, high heels, perfect makeup. No one spared her a second glance. There, she didn't exist. She was like a ghost everyone wanted to ignore. Teresa tried to explain. She said she had sewn part of the collection, that she needed to deliver it, but the receptionist just smiled, one of those cold smiles, the kind that pretends to listen. He told her to wait outside. In the reflection of the showcase, Teresa saw herself. She saw the contrast between her world and the one inside, and for a brief moment, she doubted herself. But what she didn't know was that night, something would spiral out of control, and the shine she was never allowed to show would reveal itself in a way no runway in that store had ever seen. Chapter 1. Where you don't enter without an invitation. Teresa arrived early, as she always did. She carried the cloth bag, already a bit worn, where she had carefully placed the dress she had just finished sewing the night before. A white, long dress with delicate embroidery that took hours of patience and love. Love for a profession that, for many, was invisible. Like her shoes hurt. They were the only less worn ones she had. The heel on the right creaked with every step, but she kept going, head held high. She knew her worth, even though the world insisted on ignoring it. When she reached the entrance of the mall, she took a deep breath. She had the store name, the floor, the person she was supposed to deliver it to, but in that environment of luxury and shining windows, she felt like a typo, a body out of place. "Good afternoon, ma'am. May I help you?" asked a security guard, his tone overly polite to be sincere. Teresa smiled simply. "I'm here to deliver a piece to Mrs. Lorraine's store. I was hired to finish a dress for the show." The man looked her up and down. The simple cotton blouse, the hand-sewn skirt, the cloth bag, everything about her screamed she didn't belong there. "Today's an event day. Only invited guests are allowed inside." "I know, but I sewed one of the pieces. I just need to deliver it." "Ma'am, please. Deliveries are made through the back. This is the main entrance." She felt her face burn. She looked around. Well-dressed people passed by her as if she were invisible. Some looked, laughed, whispered. She wasn't there to stand out. She just wanted to deliver what she had worked on with so much care. But even so, She was treated like an inconvenience. They asked me to deliver it personally, she insisted, her voice low. Can you please call someone from the store? The security guard sighed. He called the receptionist over the radio. Minutes later, a young woman in an elegant blazer and hurried eyes appeared. What's going on here? This lady says she's here to deliver a dress for Lorraine's collection. The young woman raised an eyebrow as she looked at Teresa. Do you have a badge? Your name on the list? An invitation? Teresa shook her head. I just sewed it. She asked for it to be picked up yesterday, but there wasn't time. I finished it this morning. She knows. She told me to come. The young woman sighed impatiently. Ma'am, I can't let you in during the show. Do you really think you'll just deliver this to her directly? Lorraine's head is all over the place. You'll ruin everything. Those words hit hard, like she was saying, you don't matter, not now, not here. But before Teresa could respond, another woman approached. She was one of the models, still in casual clothes, with headphones on and a bag in her hands. Sorry, are you Teresa? The seamstress looked up. Yes, I saw your tags on the dress. My name's Rafa. Lorraine talked a lot about you yesterday. She was desperate because no one could get the embroidery right. You saved the collection. Silence. The receptionist swallowed hard. The model smiled. Come with me. If she finds out they left you out here, someone's going to lose their job. Teresa hesitated. The security guard took a step aside. The receptionist tried to hide her embarrassment. She passed, slowly, feeling every step like it was a miracle. As she entered the makeshift backstage behind the runway, she saw dresses hanging, makeup scattered, women running, lights, cables, voices. It was a different world, but suddenly she was part of it. The model handed the dress to an assistant who immediately began preparing it for the final show. Teresa just watched, in silence, almost. Not believing it, you can stay here, okay? Said Rafa. Stay hidden if you want, but watch the runway. You deserve it. And there, in the corner of the backstage, among boxes and racks, Teresa saw something she never thought she'd see. A model gliding on stage, wearing the very dress she had sewn with her hands, worn from time. For the first time, she saw herself represented, even if no one knew. Yet. Chapter 2. Between Threads and Silences. The show was over. The lights slowly faded, while the applause still echoed through the shopping mall corridors. Teresa remained there in the same corner, almost not moving. Her eyes were misty, but she didn't cry. She simply felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Pride. The models passed by laughing, taking selfies, commenting on the buzz on social media. No one noticed the woman in simple clothes sitting on a wooden crate, her hands resting in her lap, as if waiting for something that might never come. Rafa returned minutes later with a glass of water. Did you see? She asked excitedly. Everyone was speechless about the dress. They say it was the most beautiful one in the show. Teresa smiled. It was a discreet, shy smile, almost childlike. I saw. Lorraine's busy right now, but I told her you're here. She wants to see you. Teresa's heart skipped a beat. Not because she expected compliments, but because, for the first time, she felt like her work had a face, a form, and someone recognized it. She was led to a private room at the back of the store. It was spacious, filled with fabrics, sketches, panels with photos and magazine clippings. In the center, sitting in a swivel chair, Lorraine was talking on the phone, her voice hurried. Yes, the show was a success. No, I haven't closed with the Frenchwoman yet, but she came to congratulate me. Yes, I'll call you later. She hung up, turned, and stared at Teresa. You're Teresa? The seamstress simply nodded. Lorraine stood up. She was young, elegant, confident, but in that moment she seemed grateful. I don't know what I would have done without you. The embroidery was a disaster. Everyone said it was impossible to fix. But you managed. You saved my collection. Teresa smiled awkwardly. I just did what I know. No. You made art, and no one treated you like an artist. I'm sorry if you weren't treated well." The seamstress made a gesture. With her hand. "Don't worry, I'm used to it." Lorraine stepped closer. "And that's what hurts the most. You shouldn't be used to this." Teresa fell silent. The silence of someone who has heard all the things they didn't deserve, and never heard what they needed. The designer then walked to a rack, picked up a blue silk dress, and held it up. "This one, I designed it myself, but I never found someone who understood what it really means. I want you to remake it, your way, with your hands. I want you to join me for the next season as a partner." Teresa's eyes widened. "Partner?" "Yes, with your name in the credits, with the right to contribute, to create, to share the glory. You have more than enough talent, you just lacked open doors." Teresa felt her legs shake, not because she doubted herself, but because this was too surreal. It was as if a lifetime of invisibility was suddenly beginning to take shape. "I don't have any schooling, no designer training," she murmured. "But you have sensitivity, you have history, you have truth, and do you know what else? That's worth more than any diploma hanging on the wall." Teresa couldn't hold back. Tears came, silent, honest, every stitch sewn. Every sleepless night, every quiet humiliation, all of it now made sense. She took a deep breath, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I accept. But only if I can keep sewing with my old machine," Lorraine laughed. "You can, and if it breaks, we'll buy an identical one." They both smiled. Two women from such distant worlds, united by the same passion. Outside, the night fell over. The city. And in Teresa's heart, something was born that had no price: recognition. Chapter 3. Sewing the Unexpected. The following week, the small room at the back of Teresa's house had never been so alive. The sewing machine made its rhythmic sound, like an old melody that lulls memories. But this time, there was something different in the air. On the table, next to the measuring tape and the pincushion, were the fine fabrics that Lorraine had sent personally. Silky, soft, colored like dreams. Teresa ran her fingers carefully over them, almost as if touching a secret. She didn't want to make a mistake, but she also didn't want to follow the rules. After all, she didn't have schooling, but she had eyes that saw more than measurements. Every stitch she sewed carried with it a memory. The baptism dress for her son, made from a piece of curtain. The school uniform hastily mended when money was tight. The neighbor's dress made in exchange for a sack of rice. That old machine knew more about Teresa's life than anyone ever would. And now, it was the instrument of a turning point no one expected. As she worked, one persistent thought kept returning to her mind. Will the world accept me as I am? On the day of the meeting with Lorraine and the team, Teresa arrived with her fabric bag and a dress inside. She wore a simple knit sweater, old tailored pants, and the same worn shoes as always. But her gaze carried strength. As soon as she entered, everyone stopped. She wasn't the type of person usually seen around there. The silence was uncomfortable until Lorraine appeared and broke the ice with a smile. "Teresa, we've been waiting for you. Bring the mannequin." Teresa carefully took the dress from the bag. The piece was a deep blue, with hand-embroidered details on the sleeves and hem, but what stood out was the delicacy of the stitching. Each line seemed like a silent poem. One of the assistants, with a dismissive air, commented, "Who designed this? It doesn't follow any trend." Lorraine replied firmly, "She did, and that's exactly why it's perfect." The others exchanged glances. Some were clearly skeptical, others curious. The designer then asked for one of the models to try it. And when the young woman stepped out of the dressing room, there was complete silence. The dress hugged the body with elegance, but that wasn't all. There was something there that no one could explain. It was as if the fabric told a story of struggle, dignity, and real beauty. One of the photographers, moved, began to click away. This is different from anything. Teresa, quiet in the corner, just watched. She never needed to say much. Her stitches always spoke. And for her, days later, Lorraine posted a picture of the dress on her social media with the caption, "Made by invisible hands that now need to be seen." Meet Teresa. The post went viral. Comments flooded in. "This is pure art. Who is this woman? Fashion needs this." Suddenly, Teresa went from being anonymous to being an inspiration. Messages started arriving. "My mother was also a seamstress. Thank you for remembering her. I cried when I saw this dress. There's something in it that touches. I want a dress made by Teresa." The store began receiving orders, not only for the dress, but for what it represented. A return to the value of origin, to the beauty of simplicity, to the truth. Lorraine decided to go further. She created a social project called Fios de Raiz, Threads of Roots, to train women from communities to sew professionally, connecting them with renowned designers. And who was invited to be a mentor? Teresa. She hesitated at first. "I don't know how to teach." But Lorraine replied firmly, "You teach just by existing." In the first class, Teresa arrived with her colorful threads and her old machine. The students looked at her with respect, not because she was famous, but because she carried truth. While showing them how to make an invisible stitch, she said, "Sewing is like life. We join torn pieces with patience. And even when the thread disappears, it's the one that holds everything together." They all fell silent. And in that moment, they understood that they were in the presence of someone much greater than what their eyes could see. Chapter 4. The day the city stopped. The big day arrived. São Paulo's annual fashion show brought together the biggest names in the industry. It was where trends were born and careers were made. Amid the spotlights, flashes, and celebrities, no one expected the most memorable moment of the night to be led by a simple woman with bright eyes and hands marked by time. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere was one of euphoria. Models walked back and forth, designers adjusted the final details, and the press lined up outside. But there, in the corner, sitting with her old sewing machine beside her, Teresa observed everything with the calm of someone who had faced problems. Greater than any runway, Lorraine approached and took her hand. "Are you ready?" Teresa smiled. "I was born ready. It's just that the world took its time to see me." Lorraine's collection would be the last of the night. She had saved the best for last. The runway lights came on. The first models appeared, wearing pieces inspired by the invisible seamstresses of Brazil. Fabrics mixed with old lace, modern cuts combined with handmade embroidery. The audience, accustomed to superficial luxury, was slowly captivated by a different kind of beauty, a beauty that carried truth. When the last model entered, wearing the now famous blue dress made by Teresa, the entire audience fell silent. It was as if time had stopped. The model walked slowly, and the dress seemed to float. Each stitch told a story. Each fold was a memory sewn by hand, and at the end of the runway, the surprise, Lorraine walked in hand with Teresa. The audience erupted in a standing ovation, shouts, emotion. Photographers knelt to get the best angle. There, in the center of that elitist world, stood she, the woman who had been humiliated in a store for looking too poor. The woman who had lived years in the silence of hard work, invisible to everyone. The woman who was now a symbol of a new era. With a trembling voice, Lorraine took the microphone. "This night is not about fashion. It's about looking to the side and seeing what's always been there. This is Teresa. And without her, none of this would be possible." Teresa tried to refuse the microphone, but the audience screamed her name. She took a deep breath. "I don't know how to speak beautifully, but I know what it's like to sew with hunger. I know what it's like to dress others while we repeat clothes. Today, I'm not Here to be seen, I just wanted to show that a person's worth is not measured by the clothes they wear, but by the stories they carry, tears, cameras, smiles. That night went down in the history of the event. Newspapers and websites displayed headlines the next day: the seamstress who moved fashion, when the runway bowed to dignity, from invisible to national inspiration. But the biggest impact was yet to come. The Fios de Rais project spread across the country. More than 200 women were trained in the first year. Original pieces, made by hands previously forgotten, began to be sold in the windows of major brands. Teresa became a reference, not just in fashion, but in life. Schools invited her to give lectures. TV shows wanted to hear her story. But she continued living in the same place with the same machine, sewing with the same calm. One day, sitting with Lorraine having coffee, she said, "I haven't changed. They just put me in the light." Lorraine smiled. "But it was you who taught us how to see better." The store where it all started, the one where she had been humiliated, sent a letter publicly apologizing. And more than that, they invited Teresa to make an exclusive collection. She refused. "We don't change the world by going back to those who turned their backs on us. We change it by building new doors." Instead of the collection with the store, she donated fabrics and created a free workshop in the neighborhood where she lived. Children, single mothers, retirees, all had a space there to create, learn, and dream. And so, stitch by stitch, Teresa sewed something much bigger than a dress. She sewed hope, she sewed dignity, and proved that behind the invisible threads of society, there are people of immeasurable value, just waiting for a chance to be seen.